So I did some videos about Confucianism, and I talked about some of few of the virtues, and talked about Confucius and Mencius and the hard mind and the four sprouts. But in this video, I kind of want to discuss how how embedded in Confucianism you will mostly find a virtue ethics, and that's kind of obvious. But I want to kind of elaborate on how the Western idea of virtue ethics, which was given by Aristotle and developed by many following him, and how that kind of compares to this Eastern kind of virtue ethics. And this will be my last video on Confucianism itself, and then I'll go on to videos which is about Neo-Confucianism. So, I've talked about the virtue at first of Li, which is ritual and norms and ethical norms and rights, stuff like that, which is ways of living where wherever you go, there's going to be a certain set of norms that you have to obey if you want to be a person of higher moral character, and in ways that's kind of a little bit different wherever you go. And wherever you go, you have to respect those certain norms wherever you are. And there's the virtue of self cultivation, which has to do with self transformation. So our Auschwitz, self cultivation or transformation, where it has to do with the person, and it has to do with basically that. I have video on each of these virtues that I'm going to discuss here. Self cultivation has to do with learning, love of learning. It has to do with not only respecting, Li and becoming, but you're learning and you're becoming something else. You are learning and cultivating yourself and becoming, you're kind of moving towards Ren. And what Ren is this, it has been translated as humaneness, benevolence, compassion, and Ren has specifically to do with the person, becoming an actual person. You are born into this world as a Homo sapien, but as you move towards Ren, you become an actual real human being. And Ren has to do with a person of refined moral character, possibly to the level of a sage, that you are basically one of the highest things that you could possibly achieve, when it comes to being a person of high moral refinement. And we have the filial piety, which has to do with respect of your family, respect of your elders, and there's the five relationships. There's 5 relationships with that, which I discussed, and that's filial piety. Mostly just has to do with respecting your family, respecting people, not only who are in your immediate family, but respecting other people who are your family in different ways. And there's also the virtue of E, or righteousness. There's a couple other different virtues, but there's one thing that kind of parallels these two things. First, in Aristotle's the Aristotelian Western form of virtue ethics, which has if this is just a general thing. You have your virtues, which, given any ethicist, you will have a certain amount of virtues, which are your virtues, which you are supposed to practice. You're supposed to live by those things. So you have just your virtues, which you have to live by those things, according to Aristotle. This is a bad general. This is not a very good overview of Aristotle, I must say. But generally you have these virtues which you must practice on. You must try to use those and live by those. And you also have practical wisdom in how you live your life. And as you continue to live by these virtues, you will have a habitual buildup. That's not the best way to look at it, but that's kind of the way that I've heard many different ethicists refer to it as a habitual buildup. In a way of this knowledge of virtuous knowledge of how to live life. So you kind of continue to live by these things and live by practical wisdom, and you move towards what is called eudaimonia, which is a flourishing. It's kind of hard to translate from that from Greek to English. Eudaimonia is a flourishing. It is a concept of happiness, but it's not directly a utilitarian or hedonistic idea of happiness. It's a flourishing where you are living your life in a very high morally refined way, and you are flourishing. You are in a way happy, and you have achieved a high level of moral character. That's the general Western way, and there are many different virtue ethics ethicists who put their own spin on that. Confucius and Mencius and the neo Confucians like Chushi, Shudani, Twege, and Yugok, and Wang Ming, and others have done a similar thing, but that's a different story, which we'll be getting into. We'll start with for Confucius and Mencius. Basically, this also involves Tian, or heaven too. That's also a different thing. You have to first live by Li, and in some part Yi, or righteousness. You live by Li. You have to observe moral norms and live by those moral norms, depending on where you are. Respect any moral norms that are in place wherever you are. So first, it starts with living by Li and being a moral person in some form. And it is also, you have to live by filial piety too. That's another thing. And that whole your progress of your progress of being a person of high moral character progresses with haoshui, or self cultivation, or love of learning, which is that you not only learn how to be you learn how to be a better person, but you learn a certain trade, or learn something, how to do better at some trade or something or other. Whatever your talents are, you cultivate those things, and you basically progress towards being a better person than you were beforehand through self cultivation. And you, at some point, achieve Ren, or benevolence, or humaneness, whatever way you want to call it, which is the high thing. And also, being a sage is also close to this level, if not on that same level, depending on which Confucianist you're talking to. So Ren has to do with the person, like I said, that you have become a real person, and that you have achieved this benevolence, this high moral character, and that's the goal that you're after. You're after Ren. You're trying to achieve Ren, and that's also similar to the Western concept of eudaimonia, because you're at a high level of moral character, and you're also at a high level of living, to where you have some state of happiness. So, this is a virtue ethics, which has this little Confucian Eastern spin on it. So, I think I've just been kind of seeing how these two, how the Western and the Confucianistic virtue ethics do compare, and I was just thinking about that a little more. And I'll be doing videos on Neo-Confucianism in the future. If you think I did something wrong or left something out, let me know in the comments below, or over here, wherever they are.